here we are going to talk about Azure AD. Azure AD is a service which is used for connectivity from the on-prem to the Azure environment. Okay, so usually when we have an application that is there in the Azure Active Directory, and we have migrated that application to the to the cloud environment. Now people from the on-prem environment need single sign-on connectivity to the cloud environment because our applications are migrated to the cloud. So how can we give identities access over the cloud environment in those conditions? So for that we have a service called as Azure AD Connect. Now Azure AD Connect is having many properties when we talk about Azure AD Connect in Microsoft, right? So this primarily gives you a way in which you can authenticate the user. Now it is also known as Microsoft Entra Connect. Also it comes with a facility of Microsoft Entra Health check. So what is Microsoft Entra? It is an on-premises Microsoft application. So we have this in the on-prem. So, and this is designed to meet your hybrid identities. So how we meet the hybrid identities? That you can have different types of features in this, which is PHS, password hash synchronization. We have, let me change the color of the pen here. We have pass-through authentication, PTA. Okay, and also we have federation services, which are inbuilt features of Azure AD Connect. And we can also use synchronization and health monitoring. So what does Azure AD Connect do? So if you have an identity, this identity can be provided single sign-on capability, that he can use his username and password which he is using in the on-prem. The same username and password he can now use in the Azure Active Directory. So since he is using the same username and password, he does not need to remember two different set of username and password, one for the on-prem and one for the cloud. Same username and password will work in the same in both the environments. So what is the benefit of Azure AD Connect? It is an alternate method to integrate your on-premises directory with Azure Active Directory, and we use Azure AD Cloud Provisioning Agent, which will be there in your on-prem environment. It is a standalone and it runs alongside with AD Connect. So we discussed that there are different features of authentication in Azure AD Connect. These are password hash synchronization, pass-through authentication, and ADFS. Now let's first talk about password hash synchronization. Password hash synchronization can synchronize an encrypted version of the password hash for the user account. Now let's first understand password hash synchronization. That's the first topic. So password hash synchronization synchronizes user password from the on-prem Active Directory to the cloud. Sign in Azure AD services using the on-prem password and improve the productivity of the users and reduce the help desk cost. Now since we have the user, for example, the user had an identity in your on-prem environment. Now we are trying to synchronize the password hash value from the on-prem, from the on-prem to the cloud, so that when he tries to sign in the cloud, at least in the cloud environment, we are aware about the password of the user, right? So how does this take place? You can say it is an extension of synchronization service or directory synchronization service, where we try to synchronize what? User's password in form of what? In form of a hash value, right? So what happens when the user will try to sign in the since he is from the on-prem, he will try to sign in the cloud environment. The cloud environment has a password hash synchronization because of the AD Connect. So the password is already there in the cloud. So productivity of the user is increased, and also the frauds like leaked credentials or so on is reduced because already the password is there in the cloud environment. So now you see a lot of benefit is there. Since he will sign in cloud, password is there, username he will provide, he will be authenticated, and he can now work with the application which is migrated from the on-prem to the cloud. So that's one method of authenticating a user which belongs to on-prem, but he's trying to sign in the cloud environment so that he can access an on-prem application which has been migrated. The second is pass-through authentication. Pass-through authentication authenticates the username and password with on-premises domain controller. Now here one very important thing to notice, the authentication is done with on-prem. In the first example of password hash synchronization, the user authentication was happening in the cloud environment because we have already synchronized the hash value of the user, the password hash of the user. But here in the second case, we are not synchronizing anything like that, but we are carrying out the authentication in the on-prem environment. Now, most of the times in the AZ500 examination, they ask you that, for example, my on-prem is not reachable. So, which type of AD Connect authentication option would be suitable to authenticate the user from the cloud environment? So, the answer would be PHS. Since your on-prem is not accessible, so you cannot carry out PTA. So, the next option is PHS. That's a recommendation, recommended option that you can say. So this is a what is PTA? Let's understand that. PTA is a sign-in method that allows user to use the same password in the on-prem and in the cloud, but you don't need additional federated environments to carry out this. So here you can see it supports user sign-in into all web browser-based application and into Microsoft Office client, and is a free feature and is not only for the user sign-in but also allows organizations to set up other features like self-service password reset. We have seen right in Entra that the users can reset their password write back capabilities are there. So all of these capabilities can also be used here. So in the Microsoft Entra pass-through authentication, how is the authentication taken place? That, for example, you have the same benefit of the cloud authentication that is provided. However, we want to enforce on-prem directory security and password policies that can you can use pass-through authentication in those cases. So here the user is trying to sign in the cloud environment, but through pass-through authentication, the request is sent to where? Windows Server Active Directory, which is ADDS. There, the authentication of the user is done, and the response is sent back to the cloud environment, and the user is confirmed with the sign-in. So, password validation and all of this will be taken in the on-prem environment. The next type of authentication is ADFS. ADFS is Active Directory Federation Services, which is an optional way of authenticating the user and is part of Microsoft Entra Connect. And you can use the ADFS infrastructure. See, when we discussed about ADDS in the on-prem, we also discussed that for federation of the user, we use ADFS as an additional suite of services to conduct the authentication of federated services in the on-prem. The same way, if your user tries to sign in the cloud environment and he is connected by AD Connect and he wants the authentication, so you can also go for an optional method of ADFS. Now in federated services, Active Directory Federation services, you the federation sign in, and you are you can enable the users to sign in into the Microsoft Entra services with the on-premises password, while you can also without there is no requirement of entering the password again and again. So federation option with ADFS you can deploy by installing ADFS, or you can install ADFS into your existing environment, or have the installation on the Windows Server farm. So what is federation with Azure AD? Federation is a collection of domains that have established trust. You can federate your on-premises environment with Azure AD and use federation for authentication, and this sign-in method ensures that all the users' authentication occurs in on-premises. So if your on-premises is not reachable in any of the cases according to the question in the exam, so you cannot use ADFS type of federation or pass-through. What you have to use instead? Password hash synchronization. Then we also have something called as a password write back feature. What is password write back feature? Password write back feature is the ability to write passwords back into your on-prem directory. That means if a user is signed in the cloud and if he tries to change his credentials like password, so the same will be updated in the on-prem environment. You don't need to separately do it in your on-prem, since the on-prem and cloud is connected by Azure AD Connect. So no need of synchronizing every time. Entra Connect, you can say. So it is a component of Azure AD Connect, and it is available for premium customers, and removes the need to set up and manage SSPR on-prem solutions. So no need of that. Just check when you are selecting Azure AD Connect within the account, just select password write back feature.
Thank you everyone. Like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel and keep learning.